Okay, so we are in lecture number 8. Remind you that you can see a recording of this lecture on YouTube, and also informations about the course and lecture notes will be posted in the Moodle. Last time we discussed nested loop. We discussed how we can compare two data types, if they are primitive data type or if they are object data types. They are different way. Sometimes we have to use equal equal, and sometimes we have to use dot equals. So with a primitive data type, we can use equal equal. With object data type, we have to use dot equals, and we have to make sure dot equals are implemented in our class. For example, if we create a rectangle class, our own class, we have to override dot equals method, and if we need to compare the two data type based on the order, ascending order or descending order, we have to make sure dot compare to is implemented. At the scope of this course, implementation of dot equals and dot compare is not your responsibility, but we will give you the class where dot equals is implemented, where dot compare is implemented, and we ask you to use this class. If dot equals and dot compare is not implemented in your class, then the default behavior will be inherited from the object class, which is the parent of any class you created inside Java. Now, we discuss also random number generator, which is a very powerful tool that allows us to generate a random numbers, either integers or continuous number from 0 to 1, and we can use it to generate any random input in our apps to simulate the existence of any kind of scenario. Also, we discuss one-dimension array, and we have a long discussions about how we create the array, how we initialize the array, how we make sure arrays are equal or not equal. At the end of the lecture, we discuss arrays utility class, which is allow us to sort the array. So if we have array of doubles, array of integers, array of string, we can use array.sort because we know the sorting mechanism will work. But if I create my own class, let's say a square or a chair class, I didn't implement the dot compare method on that class. So when I ask array.sort, I will have unexpected sorting. So you have to be careful before using utility class. If you are using utility class with well-known classes, then dot sort, arrays.sort will behave correctly. But if you are using with your own class that you create, like BMI model, a class that you created on D1, did you implement dot compare for that class? If you didn't implement dot compare and you create an array of BMI models, let's say you take 10 students and you ask them for the height and weight, and then you create a BMI model and store all these 10 students in one array. And then you ask to sort these students based on their BMI model. Then you ask dot sort. The dot sort will give you a random, unexpected behavior. Why? Because we didn't implement dot compare method. But if you go one step ahead and implement dot compare to in BMI and say, I will compare students not based on their height and weight, I will compare them based on their BMI model. So if you have a BMI greater than the other one, so it should become first. So we can ask for dot sort. Keep that in mind. Today I will continue on the arrays. Last time I posted the lecture note with some sort of exercises, test knowledge. I recommend all of you to look at it. And today I will discuss some of them. And then we're gonna go to two-dimensional array. We'll see how we can create two-dimensional array. Sometimes we need to create two-dimensional array. And then character and string is coming again to the pictures. This is like a review. I will go again on details, adding some extra information to character and string. I know we have been covering character and string many times, and we revisit this topic many times, maybe 3 or 4 times. Today is the last time I'm going to revisit character and string. I'm going to highlight more things, okay? Now, it's like a review. Character and string is actually, most of these slides will be a review. We're going to go over them quickly, and we will start our main topics because we need this review for the pattern matching and regular expressions. which is a new topic. I would like all of you to give me your full attention, because if you start with me, you will see this is a fun. But if you stay behind, if you didn't give me your attention, you will find the regular expression is a hard topic to digest, and you will never catch up. Okay? Just your knowledge, if I give you an array of number and I want to determine if the content of this array all is positive. So this is a problem, or let's say it's a real type situations, okay? When you want to check that all the number of the array is positive, okay? You don't do any mistakes. You are working with, let's say, a height of the person. You ask 100 students about their height, and you want to make sure that you didn't do any measurement wrongly. So someone measured minus 1.5 meters. So you need to avoid this kind of mistake in your sample of study. You go to the lab and you do blood test and you have some numbers stored on the array. And you need to make sure that nothing is wrong before you report it to the patient. Imagine number of blood cells in your test is negative 500 or something. So it will be disappointing, okay? So you need to make sure. There's a lot of real life situation scenarios on just these two line of sentences. So we teach you the programming to go to the real life and try to solve the problems, okay? But we try to make it on, let's say, a technical questions. That's why we ask, given an array of numbers, check the numbers. I can make it as a real-time situation, like what we saw as a motivation on the last lectures. Students decided to measure the time from his home to the university by taking his samples. And then he wants to see what's the average, how many days I was below the average, how many days I was above the average. So all this is a real-life situation, can be solved using Java programming, and we can develop a program to solve these questions. So to approach these questions, I give an example, very simple thing. I didn't write a method. And remember, this is an example. If I want to tweak these questions and give it to you in the lab test, I will ask you to implement a method that receives any random array and check the values, if they are positive or not. But this is an example. We learn by looking at the example. So we have an array of integers is defined, and we have defined a Boolean. So far, only positive number is true. And we have integer counters. I is equal to 0. We're using while loop, so we have to do the initialization at the beginning. Then we ask if I less than number dot length. And that's one of the things about arrays on Java. The length is already considered as one of the attributes of the array. So there's no parentheses. That is one of the common mistake last semester. Students, they say numbers dot length and they put the parentheses. I don't know. You have the tools where the Android Studio is there, and you can check the syntax before you're writing it and submit your answers. So far is equal so far, and we use rational operation to compare and gate to compare between the two things. So far is true, and if the number at index I is greater than 0, this is another rational operation, is return true or false, then so far will be what? Updated. This scenario, you can see one of the things on this scenario is I have to revisit all the elements. You can see that I have to execute the while loop completely, because I'm going from I 0 up to I less than length. So if I have an array of 10 elements, I will go from 0 up to 9. Okay? And then I will print the message at the end based on the status of so far. This is one of the disadvantages of this technique. It's worked fine. I'm not asking you for optimality in terms of type complexity. We're going to visit this type complexity topics at the end of the semester. But there's another implementation. This implementation makes sure you stop execution once you see non-positive number. You can see I add in the conditions so far positive number and with I less than the numbers. So if so positive happen to be negative by visiting one of the negative numbers, so that would be false, I will stop executing. So once I see -1 in my array, I will stop execution. So this is more optimal in terms of time complexity. Imagine you have an array of 1 million students and you want to check them. Okay? Okay? Good. Any question? Perfect. Now, given an integer array and you would like to sort them in non-descending orders. So if I have given 1, 2, 3, I have to return true if they are ascending in non-descending orders. That means ascending. So please just change some kind of keyword. Students got confused immediately. You have to read the questions carefully. So non-descending, some students raise their hand. What is non-descending? It's ascending. Okay, so if you have 1, 2, 2, 4, then I will return true. And if I have 1, 4, 3, 3 is false. So most of the time when I ask you questions, I will give you examples. So these examples should help you to understand the question more. So by looking to the question, you always ask yourself, what is given? What is given for me? Because I have to write this method header. What is given? What does want for me to do? What is given? I have given an array of integer, not array of double, not array of booleans, array of integers. And what I need to do, I need to look at this array element by element and make sure they are in non-descending orders. And if that, what is required from me? To print a message? No, retain or print true. Not return true. It might be, I will change it on the test, I will say retain true. So you don't need to print anything, you need to retain the true to the user. But this is just an example, so we print a message. This is an implementation. So we say, okay, this is we use for loop. So you can see now, I try by my examples using for loop, while loops. So I don't want you to see only for loop implementation, so you're stuck with the for loops. Because sometimes I will ask you, implement this method using do while loop. So you have to be able to use these tools. So here is a for loop. I ask integer I is equal to 0 and is sorted. I add it to the condition. So I try to make my implementation more efficient. So I will stop execution immediately once I see non-sorted element. Again, I start I from less than a dot length minus 1. Okay. And then I plus plus. Pay attention to the conditions, okay, guys? And then is sorted will check if a at index I less than a or equal to a at plus 1. That will be ascending order. So if element at I is less than element at I plus 1, then everything is fine. This will update it as true. We'll continue the execution and then at the end I will print the message. Any question? Okay. Now this is an example where we are using array of objects. We go from using array of integers, array of doubles, array of booleans. Now we have array of objects. We create our own class called rectangle. If you can go to the previous slides, you can see the array of rectangles, and we have used this as an argument. This is, I can say, most likely similar to lab test questions you see on the lab test one. Given the array of rectangles, so this is given to me, so I have array of rectangles. What I need to do? Implement a method. So I have to implement a method. What is retained? So once I implement the method inside Java, I have to determine what is retain type, because method on Java retain only single value. Now we have to be able to retain an array. We can retain multiple value by putting them inside one array. So what is I'm going to retain? I retain the average area of these rectangles. So this is given, what I need to do, and this is what is I should deliver at the end. Method, retain the average array of rectangles. Students, of grade 3, ask them to draw rectangles, then you collect these rectangles all together, and you measure the height and width, and you want to take the average. This is a random study to see if you are following Gaussian distribution or any other distributions. Okay, remind you, this is the array of rectangle that we discussed last time. This is an integer height and width. We initialize them to 0. We have the constructors, and we get width and height, we get area, and also we have two strings to print the string, and we have dot equals is implemented, and as you can see, two rectangles are equal if the width equal to the width and the height is equal to the height. Good. So this is the implementation. I have received input array as array, and this is the here we will see the most common problems. Students immediately on the second line, rather than making integer sum is equal to 0, they create a new array called input array. No, you receive input array as an input argument to this method. This is already defined. You can use it immediately. You don't need to redefine input array. And if you redefine input array, you get 0 because you are not using the input. You create your own input, which is not the method that we look to have. So input array, once it's part of the header or part of the input argument, it's already defined. So you don't need to redefine it again. You don't need to redefine input array. I can use input array right away in the for loop. Integer I is equal to 0, less than I is less than input array dot length. Immediately, input array is already defined. I receive it as an input. Someone give me an input array. I use the input array directly. I don't need to redefine it again. Then I have I plus plus, and then I ask input array at element I. What is the element? It's a rectangle object. So I can ask dot get area, because the object is stored at element I is a rectangle. So the rectangle has a method called get area that allow me to retain the area of rectangle. So I can do this. Then I add it to the sum, and then I create the average and return it back to the user. Any question? Because if I didn't do that, I will end with integer divisions. I have to do that. No, it's integer. Did you see an array of 10.5 elements? No, integer, the length of the array. Okay, so sum is integer, array input array dot length is integer. If I do the division without casting, I end up with integer divisions. So I have to do that casting to make sure I have the double divisions. Any other questions? Okay. After this review of some examples about one-dimensional array, now we will start our own topic about two-dimensional array. The new dimensional array is not magic. It's the same as one-dimensional array, but now you are asking for int, and you put double square brackets, and you name of the variable table, and you decide at the time of the declarations how many, once you use a new keyword, how many rows and how many columns. In this declarations, we have a table variable is two-dimensional array with 10 rows and 6 columns. Okay? How we can access? So this is the one-dimensional array, this is the two-dimensional array. So you can see that the one-dimensional array is an array, and once you create two-dimensional array, it's like putting arrays next to each other. Look at the columns as an array of 6 elements, let's say. Sorry, the column is an array of 10 elements, and look at the rows as an array of 6 elements. So it's like you putting arrays, either you order them vertically or horizontally. Okay, so two-dimensional array is actually one-dimensional array, but you put them all together. Okay, so you can access them in sequence. Okay, So you can have a multidimensional array by defining the number of rows and number of columns. Here is the table is one-dimensional array of length 3, but each element I, it's another array of 4. So you can say table element at 0, it's an array. Table 0 by itself, without putting two square bracket next to each other. So table element 0 is an array. You can ask what's the length of that array. We retain 4 because there's 4 elements at element 0. So you can think about an two-dimensional array is actually an array where the element is an array. So either to look at the row columns, so each element in the column is another array. Okay, so here is the table 0 refer to the first row of the array, which is one-dimension array. So element 0, if I say table 0, only table 0, it's an array of 4 elements. So table.length will retain 3. Remember, if you define two-dimension array, it will look at the number of element inside the array. So table.length will retain 3, the first one, which is defined the number of rows. So how many rows you need? 3. And how many number of columns? 4. So if I ask table.length, it will retain 3, not retain 12. Okay? Because this is a two-dimension, and you can think about it as an array where the element of the table is another array. Okay, how to access them? Once you define a matrix is equal to new integer 5 rows, 5 columns. So it's a start by 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, you can access them. So either to define them like this, so once you declare integer array of 5 rows, 5 columns, it will be created for you, or you can declare and initialize all at once. So if you can initialize it like this, integer array, and you give the element of the rows and the element of the columns by using the braces. So the big braces for the array, and each row is within one braces. And this initialization, this is how it looks like. So if you declare an array where the first row 1, 2, 3, this is how it's be sorted on the system. So element 0, 0 will be 1, element 0, 1 will be 2, not element 0, 1, 0. 1, 0 is the second row. Any question? Yes?
So, if what table.length, it specifies the row.
The first argument on the length. So number here is, if I ask matrix.length, it will retain 5, which is the number of rows. If I ask arrays.length, it would give me 4. Array.length will give me 4. Now if I ask array and ask for the element 0.length, it will retain 3. Any other question? Okay, so this is how we define a new array, integer x equal to new int 3, 4. So we have 3 rows and 4 columns. So you can think that x is an array of 3 elements, but the element of that x is actually another array. So element 0 is an array of 4 elements. So as you can see on this side, you have element x at 0, dot length is equal to 4, element 1 dot length is equal to 4, element 2 is length is 4. But if I ask x dot length, I will have 3. I hope this slide will clarify what we mean by x dot length and x 0 dot length. Yes?
Wait, so x dot length, that's the how many rows the whole array has, but x 0 dot length is the number of columns in the 0th row?
Yes. Now, this is a beauty of Java. Now, you can define a square array, so all the elements of the rows are the same, but they allow us to define an array where the rows have different elements. So you can see here on this example, the triangle array is contain how many elements? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements. And element at 0 contains 5 elements, but element at 4 contains only 1. So this is a triangle. So you can define a table or two-dimensional array inside Java where the number of columns are not the same for all the elements. Okay? You can think about this scenario where you have the lecture rooms inside your university as an array. Each lecture is one element on the array. But then we define the number of seats for each array, for each element. So not all the lectures have the same seats, and you can determine who is sitting on that seat. Okay? So rooms or the lectures have different size. Okay? You can store that in Java. They allow you. Some programming language, they not allow this, but Java allow to have rows in two-dimensional array with different. So how this is splitted, and once you declare it, how I can initialize it, how I can access the element at 2 and element at 1. So when you say matrix and you give element 2 and element 1, 7, that's exactly what happened. You're going to go to the row number 2 and column number 1 and you assign this value. This is how you access the index. Any question? Okay, that's what we discussed is a rigid array where is the number of element inside each row is different. You can say I want to create a rigid array where integer new integer 4 and you didn't specify the number of columns at the declaration. That is okay. And later on at the runtime you specify how many elements in each row you need. Let us test our knowledge that we understand the two-dimensional array by looking at this example. Given two-dimensional array of integers, calculate and retain the average of its number. So now I have to implement a method. The header of the method is given to me, so I have to not change it. So if I go on the implementation and the solution of this example, and I say, okay, public static double, I will change double. I don't like double. I will retain integer. So you are implementing a different method. You will not get any credit for that. I ask you to implement public static. This is a contract between you and the employers. You go to you want to develop an app, you ask the customers, what is the requirement and what do I have to do? You collect them. This is what is the customer is needing. You need a method called public static double and average two-dimension, and then you have integer, and you can see here how we can send the two-dimensional array as an input argument. And then you have 2 square brackets, not only 1, because this is a two-dimensional array, and the input array. You work on team of many developers, 50, 100 developers. You work with Facebook, Google. Your job today is to develop this method. So we're going to take your method and put it inside a big system. If you retain integer, then the system will be crashed. So you make sure the implementation is match what is asked you to do. So we ask you to take two-dimensional array and retain them. I hope this emphasizes about the fact you have to read the question carefully and implement what we ask you to do. This is an example where we go through the element. So now, because we have two-dimensional array, I can say the direct conclusions should we have nested for loops or nested while loops, nested do while loops. So here we have a nested for loop. I make the index row and column so to make sure my code is readable. So I go through the rows. As you can see, I start from row is element 0, then rows dot input array dot length. This input array dot length will retain number of rows. Once I pick the first element of the row, the first element of the row is another array, and I can ask input array row dot length. So how many element on that row? And then I go through the nested for loop. I will add the input array rows, columns, elements to the sum, or to the total in this case, and I will increment the number of elements. Why I need the number of elements at the end? Someone say, oh, it's obvious. I can conclude, and that's happened, that input array dot length times input array of 0 dot length and multiply with them. So this is a square array, 3 rows, 4 columns. That's 12 elements. But did you forget in the previous slide we say that Java allow you to have array with different number of columns? I mean, the element inside the column is different. So we have to keep track how many elements inside the array. So that's why we have to define integer element of array starting from 0, and we increment it whenever we visit the element. At the end, we do the divisions and make sure this is a real-time division, not integer division, and we retain the average. Any question? Yes. It's already defined by, if you look at it, but if you go back, it's already, you answer your questions. So what you can see here? This is how the Java is looking at it. It's taking rows and then you define the number of columns. Now, if you look at the columns, how many elements in each column? No. If you, Java is look at rows and then you define number of elements on each row. You want to say, if I have a different element inside each column, but if you want to look at maybe another programming language, say columns then, okay, good. So you have now different element in each columns, good. Any other question? But Java, remember, look at the defining rows, then number of element in each row. And when you ask input length, it will retain number of rows. Any other questions? Okay. This is an example where we receive, this is a good example. So far, we see the method in Java retain only a single value. Can we retain multiple values? Yes, we can. If we define arrays where it can hold as many elements I need and retain this array. In this example, I have received two-dimensional array, and I need to find the maximum and the minimum value and retain a sorted content inside the retained value. So I need to find the maximum, I need to find the minimum and sort them and retain it to the user. So I have to retain the minimum and maximum sorted. So the minimum first, the maximum second. If I retain the maximum first and the minimum second, it will be failure. It will be a problem, okay? So I have to look at the two-dimensional array, find the maximum. You have to think what is given, what I need to do, and what I have to retain. So I have two-dimensional array of integers. I have to find out the maximum, the minimum, and retain sorted array contains them, minimum and maximum. Any question?
So when you're saying minimum maximum, do you mean per column? What's minimum maximum, or?
Once it's written like this, it should come to your mind minimum in the array, whole elements.
So you're sorting through different rows.
All the elements. I have to visit all the elements of the array and determine what the maximum. If I say retain the minimum bare row, I would write it down. But as it's written like this, it should be understand that I have to visit all the elements of that array and retain the maximum of that element. Any other questions? Yes?
So the return type for this method is an integer
Array.
A one-dimensional integer array?
Yes, because you can see one square brackets. but the input is two-dimensional. You see two square brackets. Any other question? Okay? Good. So this is the implementations. I say I will have the first element of the array, I will say it's a minimum. The first element of the array, I will say it's a maximum. And once I find value greater than the maximum, I will update. Once I have the value less than the minimum, I will update. I will revisit all the elements. So you can see here, I go through the two nested for loops, and then I will ask if the element is greater than the maximum, update the maximum, please. If the element is less than the minimum, update the minimum, and then I will retain the result. Element 0, minimum, element 1 is maximum, and retain the result. And you can see on the third line, I define integers result as two-dimensional, as one-dimensional array contains two elements. Now, if you ask me if this is an efficient implementation, not an efficient implementation, but it's do the job. Okay? Anyone can suggest for us now another efficient implementation? Yes?
Put them in the same statement?
No, you have to visit all the elements. Another efficient implementation you can, yes?
But why is it that the result of 0 is the min, result of 1 is max? Like, I understand that they got replaced if they're more than or less than, but how is it that the 0 is the minimum and the 1 is the maximum?
No, the result is the one that I'm going to return it to the user. If you read the question is saying that I need you to retain a one-dimension array where this dimension array is sorted. So the minimum first, then the maximum.
I'm saying, how did you put the minimum, where in the code is the minimum, where you put the minimum first?
The last two lines. Result at element 0 equal minimum. Result at element 1 is equal to maximum. So I sort them. Good? Now, another way to look at this, I will say I will use arrays dot sort, because this is an integer data type, primitive data type, okay? So sorting will work fine. So I will go for each row, just one loop, each row I sort them, then I go the first element of the row, I check that is there between them or not. So I don't need to do, if I have an array of rows n, let's say 10 elements, and the element on each row is, say, it's symmetric, so it's 10, so I need to visit 100 elements. No, I will visit only 20 elements to make sure that I have maximum and minimum. It will be an efficient way. Okay? Yes?
You change the main counter, or get into your counter,
Second counters?
the second row, the counter can be drawn as one.
Yes. You can do that, but how are you gonna agree that the second row, I should not visit the first element? Yes, but the second row, when it's integer input array 1, 0. I'm not sure if this will work, but try it. It's worth to try it and see if you receive the same. So you define any random, you can use the random generated numbers to generate any random two-dimensional array, and you can use what you suggest as the columns should start from 1, not start from 0. Okay? You can use dot sort with two-dimensional array. This is another efficient implementation. You don't need to sort by rows. You just say arrays dot sort, and you give two-dimensional array to it, and then the element at 0 will be what? Minimum. Element at maximum will be the last. Think about it and you can see. These are exercises. I recommend all of you to look at these. So you have two-dimensional array A, it's called A, and I didn't give you the header of the method, so you have to work out to find the header of the method. So when I say two-dimensional array A, so that means the input header should include A. Find the row which has the maximum sum and retain the sum. In the second problem, you receive a two-dimensional array. Determinant of all element is positive and return true if so. This is another implementation for one-dimensional array we saw in the previous slide. And then we have a two-dimensional, last problem, two-dimensional array. Determine if it's determine if it's rectangle. That means each row has the same number of columns and return true if so. So you know that Java give you the opportunity to have arrays with different number of elements in each row. So you need to make sure in the last problem that you are working with symmetric array. So number of rows and a number of elements in each row is the same. Okay, any question? So we take more than what I expected to just discuss the two-dimensional. Now we go to the string land, which is chapter number 4. But before I jump right away to the regular expression and discuss the regular expression, I want to make sure that all of us stand on the same solid ground of concept of characters and string. So what you're going to see now, it's a review, and you can stop me whatever you see I don't understand some issues here. I will add some information about what we have already saw about string and characters, because this is not a new topic, character and string. We use character and string since D1. Okay, character and string classes. Let us see. Character in Java is a primitive data type, and there is a rhyming class called characters. Rhyming class is an object. And once you define is a single quote, so don't forget the single quote is distinguished between the string and the character. Here is a char, ch1 is equal x. So the value for that single quote is x. Now, what is Java is understand is not a simple x. Is understand this x is translated to an integer value using what they call the Unicode. Unicode is used 2 bytes, but in this course you can think we are going to use the ASCII, which is 1 byte, only one subset of it. So the Unicode is a standard representation for a character, constant. Now if you look at the character class, which is a utility class Java expert created for us to allow us to do some kind of method on the char objects. I can ask if this object is digit. So I receive a character, I want to make sure this is a digit character. So from 0 to 9, not a X, Y, Z, not an alphabetic characters. I can ask if it's alphabetic character using is letter. So you can see the return type is Boolean, true or false. And I can count is a letter or digit, so it's not a special character. I can ask if it's only between A capital to Z capital and between A small to Z small and between 0 and 9, excluding underscore, percentage, or caret or asterisk or any other special characters. Is lowercase. I can ask if this character is actually a lowercase character. Is uppercase. I can ask if it's uppercase. It's a white space, so it's tab space, okay? I can ask if this character is a white space. To upper, to lower, so I can convert the state of the characters from upper to lower. And look at the retain type of the last two. It's not changing the content of that character. It's creating a new one and retain it back to you, okay? It will retain a character data type. So it's take the X small, change it to X capital and retain it. The original one is stay the same, X small or X lowercase. Okay. Character arithmetic is another approach to look at the character because the character is represented as an integer inside Java. So A capital is represented as 65. When I ask A capital plus 1, with a single quote around A capitals, this will add 1 to that character and will make it 66. And this ASCII code is equivalent to A capitals. Okay, I can ask a random number generator and I use the character inside the argument. And you can see I define a random rgen, which is a random generator, and its next integer. And I give a capital between single quote. Then the next integer character method will understand I'm sending an integer value, and then between a capital and z capital. So I generate a random integer between the ASCII code of A capital and the ASCII code of Z capital. I can re-implement is digital by ask is digit. By ask if the character is greater than the ASCII of 0. When I put 0 on the single quote, that means the Java will understand the ASCII code of 0. So if the character that I receive is greater than the ASCII code of 0 and less than the ASCII code of 9. So I can check if it's that fit, then it's digit. That means it's a digit between 0 and 1. I can use the rational operators. I can ask if A small is less than B small, that is returned true. If X capital is equal to X capital, and if Q capital is not equal to Q small. So I can use the rational because the Java will understand the character as an ASCII code. I can use them inside the for loop. For a character C is equal to A, ASCII code of A, less than the ASCII code of C, then I print C++. This will print the lowercase alphabetic set. Any questions up to this point? Yes.
Can you say like char 2 minus char 1, and if you get 0, it's the same character, will that work? Can you use like R?
Yes. Yes, because we are using equal. You can say the difference, if the difference is equal to 0, then those are the same character because they have the same ASCII code. Okay? Just our knowledge, we have defined an array of characters, char array, and we initialized it at the beginning. And as you can see, I am going through, this is another way of writing a for loop. You are looking at going through the character array and you need to visit the elements. I am not interested where is the location of that element. I'm interested to visit the element and then I ask character.isLetters. If this is a character is letter or not, and then I print a true or false to the user. So this is a for loop where I'm visiting the elements. I'm not interested to visit or to know this element at which index. You can see I'm not putting any index. As long as I'm inside the character array, I will have another element. So this is another way of going for loop inside the element. If I'm interested to visit the element of the array, not to know where is this element is located. So this will print false, true, true, false, true, true. So the 0 is not a letter, and the question mark simple is not a letter. Okay. In this example, I define two arrays. Char array 1 and char array 2. I initialize them at the definitions. I ask system.println array.toString, so I will print them out. And then I will define a new string. And one of the things about constructor of a new string is taking a character array and convert this character array to what? To the string. Then at the print them out. After that, I ask array.sort and I take the character array and sort it. The behavior here is a sort as an integer. So the ASCII code, the character with ASCII code, the minimum will be in the first, in the beginning. And the character with ASCII code is the highest will be at the end. So the dot sort for a character array will work with ASCII code. It's like sorting an integers. The smallest will be at the beginning and the largest will be at the end. Then I will ask them to print it out. See, so the first one will print the array as is it, and then I will convert it to string. I can take the character array and convert it to string. That's easy. And the second one is I'm taking the array and sort them based on the ASCII code. As you can see, 0122 EECS based on the ASCII code. Any question? Okay. There is a character arithmetics here. This is an exercise and we're gonna go over it together. So I have to implement a method called 2-hex digit. What is 2-hex digit? I don't know. I don't have any idea. This is taking an integer and retain a corresponding hex digit characters. So what is the hex digit? If I don't know what is the hex decimal, it's okay. It's written on the questions to clarify this for us. If the argument was between 0 and 9, I should retain the ASCII code of 0 and the ASCII code of 9. So if I receive a number between 0 and 9, I will retain the ASCII code of 0 and the ASCII code of 9. You see that the 0 between the one single code. That means I'm retaining a character, not a number. And if I receive a number between 10 up to 15, I will retain a letters character between A to 5. So once I receive 10, I will retain A. If I receive 11, I will receive P, and so on up to 15, I will retain F capitals. So you know what is the hex digit is? It's a number system. We use it on the computer science and computer engineers and electrical engineering, and it's used wherever you go inside the computer science and computer engineering. And how we can construct it? Once we receive a digit between 0 and 9, we retain the ASCII of it. And if we receive a number between 10 to 15, we retain the character A to 5. If the argument outside, the method is asking you to retain the question mark. This is how it's required. So I will retain a question mark, ASCII code. I will start implementing by putting the header. Public character, I will retain a char. 2-hex digit, I will not change the name of the method because that people are gonna call it with this name. I will receive an integer value, take integers, that is what's written on the question, and retain a character, which is the retain type. Now, if the character is greater than or equal to 0 and less than 9, I will retain the ASCII code. How I'm gonna do that? Any suggestions? The good thing about ASCII is a continuous. So the ASCII code of 0 at the beginning, then ASCII code of 1, then ASCII code of 2, up to 9. Those are within the same range of ASCII code. So let's say if the ASCII code of 0 is 20, the ASCII code of 1 is 21. The ASCII code of 2 is 22. Okay, so the ASCII code is putting on the range of continuous range between 0 and 9. So what we're going to do is taking the ASCII code of 0 and add into it. So we take the ASCII code of 0 and we add 0. So we'll end up with ASCII code of 0. We take the ASCII code of 0 and we add 1 to it. That will give us the ASCII code of 1. And we'll recast it to character and retain it. So I don't need this integer arithmetic to end up with integer value. I need it to retain a characters. Else, if I receive a number greater than or equal 10 and less than or equal to 15, I will retain a character A, B, C, D, E, F. So again, the ASCII code of capital is continuous. So I will take the ASCII code of A capital and I will add the N to it. Yes?
Wait, so you can, so in the return character line, you can add the character to an integer?
As I told you, character is understood by Java as an integer. So I can do that character arithmetic. I can add integer and Java will do the promotion techniques if you back to 3 lectures before. Any other questions? Okay, so once I receive this, I will retain the ASCII code of A capital N minus 10 because I need to add 1, 0 up to 5. Else, I will retain the ASCII code of question mark. This is a very simple examples demonstrate that we understand what we mean by char data type inside Java and the ASCII code of char type. We do the arithmetic for the character data type. Okay, any question? Again, this is not a unique implementation. You can think about it at home by developing another implementations. Now, if I ask you to Imagine you have an integer of arrays and you want to visit these elements of the array and generate the hex representation for this element and return it to the user. Okay, any question about characters? Now we start string. Again, this slide is more like a review. String is a sequence of characters. We treat it as a single value. A string is not a primitive data type, it's an object data type. So each character in the string, we can think about it. Now we have a concept of array. We can think about the characters inside the string as character array. So we can have access them by index. We can access the first character inside the string by giving 0, 1 to up to string.length. Okay? So since the string is a class, we have to use a new keyword to define them. But Java experts, they find out that people are using string very frequently to the shortcut. So they say, okay, once you give us a string, we're gonna do the rest for you. So here we define a string name one is between these two quotations, double quotations, is stda, student A, and this Java will take this and will create a new string on the back end. So it will create an object of a string for you. So this is a shortcut. And this is shortcut work only with string. Okay? It's work only with a string. Okay? And they have already after that, as you can tell, that the wrapping class, integer wrapping class, double wrapping class also use boxing or unboxing, all them automatic. So also Java expert make it easy for us by doing auto boxings. So whenever we assign a primitive data type of type int to integer wrapping class, it will do this boxing for us automatically. Some useful method inside string. So there's many useful methods and we're gonna demonstrate more of them on discussing the pattern matchings and regular expression. But keep in mind, none of these methods change the state of the string. String is an object, the state is the value of that object. None of these methods that we're going to discuss will change the value of the string, the state of it, because it's a mutable object. Mutable object, you cannot change it. This is very important. So what happened is creating a new string and return it back. So if you take a string and you ask to upper, you want to convert all the letters of this string to uppercase, it will create a new string and return it back to you. It will not change the current status. So this is a class called immutable, and immutable, a class is play a very important role in the programming, and you're going to see later on in your life, you're going to come across some concept that's immutable. You want to create it and nobody can change it. The only way to change it is destroy the one and create a new object. Again, if we look after we have the concept of one-dimensional array, and we can think about string as an array of characters. So once we define a string called hello world, we can think that this is spanned from 0 up to 11. So this is take 12 elements, and at each index we have one characters. So we can access these characters, okay, and we can retrieve the information saying a string dot char at, and we give an index. And we have to make sure the index within the range of the length of the character. If we try to access any element outside of the length, let's say I was looking at string.char at 12, what happened? Error? An exception, runtime error, index out of bound, because this is considered as an array of character. We are trying to access an element inside an array, and this element does not exist. So index out of bound. Okay, this is an example where you have defined a string name, a dot, and you give a space. So this space actually is a character and will take one element. And that's most of the students get confused, and they start putting an element a dot, and they forget totally about the space, and they look at B, C, D, E, F. So no, the space is what is a character. It has an ASCII code. So it will take a space on the array. So this array of 8 elements, not 7 elements. Okay? And if you ask name.length, it will retain 8 elements. Okay. Normally, if you are trying to visit the array or look at the string as an array, remember, always array index start from 0, not from 1. Okay, so now imagine you write in your program a string 1 equal hello, string 2 hello. What do you think? We create 2 objects and these 2 objects with the same state. Is that right? Or what happened? This is not a new topic. We already discussed this. Can anyone say, what are we going to have? 2 objects or 1 object? Even you have questions on the lab test about it. What the Java going to do? You as a programmer create str1, string 2, and it's happened to be 2 lines next to each other, and the Java, what the Java going to do? This is what you expected. Yes? But in truth, this is what happened. Java is smart enough, and this is, I don't know, you think it's about smart enough or not smart enough. Java will knows that these 2 strings have the same state, so they make alias. So actually, we create one object, and we refer to this object by a variable name str1 and str2. So this is an aliasing. Aliasing is a powerful tool, but it needs to be used carefully. No, try it. Try and see it. How you try it? By trying to change and access. So now you have string 1 and string 2 are referring to the same object. What about if you change the state of the objects? But this is a mutable object. So you cannot change the state of string without destroying it and create a new one. Okay? Java is smart enough, even if it's far away, but I cannot say, you have to try it. What about this one? Now a new string. Java is fun. Then I say, okay, I will use a copy constructors. As you can see in the second line, I say a string s2 is equal to new string s1. So I take the s1 and I use it inside the copy constructor to create s2. What happened here? What we are expecting? 2 objects or 1 object, or Java will understand that, oh, the same state, so you have, should be 1 object. 2 objects, because I use a new keyword explicitly in my code. So this will create 2 objects, S1 and S2, and both are live in the memory without any awareness of each other. So S1 will have his own address, state, S2 will has its own address, different address, and with different content. Now, this is an empty string. A string with length is equal to 0. Yes?
I just went back to the example. So is it implicit that S12 string is done implicitly on string?
What to string?
The S1 object, right? String
Yes.
is object. So S12 string is that done implicitly when you give the string of S1?
No, it's based on the constructors. Okay? The constructor, the copy constructor, you can look at the implementation on the internet about the copy constructor of the string class, which is by Java expert. I doubt they make it clearly available for the public how they implement a copy constructor. They access it as an array of characters element to go for loop for each element they copy it, or they do some kind of mechanism to copy the content. They do toString, for example. I don't know. They offer us a method called copy constructor. Give me a string, I will copy it and retain a copy of it. I'm using the copy constructor without being aware how it's implemented. And this is where you're going to come across real life situation. You read the API in D3, you don't know how it's implemented, but I know how to use it. So I have a copy constructor. If I construct the string, okay, I can use the copy constructor. How the copy constructor is implemented is not our scope. Okay, maybe they use toString, maybe they use for loops to visit each element. I have no idea. If you define an string with no content, as you can see in the slide, you guarantee you have an empty constructor. This is not an empty constructor, a string error message, semicolon. This is not a constructor. You're not creating any object right now. There is no object on the error. This is a reference to a string object and it's reference to none, not reference to any object. So you have to be careful that word 1, word 2 is actually a string object. They are referring to an object and this object with an empty state. But the last one is null.
So even if you put a space, it won't create a mesh error, right?
Where is the space?
No, but in word string word 1 equals quote space quote.
Still, you already have.
But didn't you say that a char is still a character inside of it?
You cannot use single quote with a string. This is an error message. String with double quote. You cannot say word is equal single quote. It's like the problem. You have on the right side is a char data type. On the left side is a string. You cannot assign them together.
No, I understand. But if you were to put like a space bar, you know.
You can put a space, but this is not an empty string. This is a string with contain one character, the space.
It won't create an error.
You can have a space. Space is a character. You can have a string with one space, 1 million spaces. But if you put a double quotation without anything inside it, this is an empty string with length is 0. But if you put double quotation and put a space bar, this is a string with length 1. Good. Space, we saw in the previous slide, there is white space. So even the tab is considered as a tab. Okay? A new line, beginning of the line. You can see that in the regular expression. Any other questions? Okay. Now, for equality, if you would like to check the string for equality, avoid using equal, because this is an object data type. You have to use dot equals. So we already discussed this and we emphasize on it on the previous lectures. Now, if you have two string, this is just to test our knowledge, we understand, and two string and we ask name dot equals name 2. What do you think the output of this example? Is the string are equal or not equal? They are equal. The string are equal because we are checking about the state. What about this one? They are not equal because we are checking about the address. If they are referring or aliasing to the same object, the string are not equal. So you have to distinguish between when you have the object data type, you have to always use dot equals method. If you have a primitive data type, you can use equal. Yes?
So that is only true if they have like name 1 Timmy and a name 2 Timmy. As if they just
Without using a new string, that's right. Okay? You have to be careful. Because equal, check if the name 1 and name 2 are referring to the same object. They have the same value in the address. Okay? What about this one? Our string 1 is equal to and alias to string 2. Yes. String 4 and string 5. No. So this will only print string 1 is equal and alias to string 2. It will not print the second message. Why? Why it's not printing the second message? Because printing the second message is a condition by if statement. So if the statement is false, we're not going to go there. Okay? There's no else. It's if statement. So if the if statement condition is true, I will go there. If the if statement condition is false, I'm not going to go there. And this is a mistake with the students on the answer, printing the message. But always remember that if statement evaluated as true, I'm going to go there. If statement evaluated as a false, I'm not going to go there. Okay? Okay, comparing the character and string for ordering. We saw this in the previous lectures. S1 dot compare to the S2, it will retain 0 if the S1 content is the same as S2, but it will retain greater than 0 if S1 is less than S2, and if S1 is greater than S2, it will retain it will retain minus negative value of S1 less than S2, and it will retain positive value of S1 is greater than S2, and will retain 0 if they are equal. So always look at the S2, who is calling the compare to. S1 is calling compare to. So if S1 is greater than S2, I will have positive. If S1 less than S2, I will have negative. And if S1 is equal to S2, I will have 0. So who is calling? Now the situation is reversed. If S2 dot compare S1, so if S2 dot compare S1, the situation will be reversed to what we have on the slide. Okay, the order is lexicographics orders. That means we discussed it's a great and fantastic. Great is uppercase is before the lowercase, so that's why we have in this one is smaller, and book and bookstore, and both have the same beginning, so the longest one will retain greater than the other one. So this is an example for a negative difference. So apple dot, so I can call this define a string apple double quotation dot compare to Perry, and this will make A before B. So this is all of this inside this example is a negative value. Okay, any question about this? So all of this will retain negative value. This will retain the same value, and pay attention to the dot compare to ignore case. So this will compare by ignoring the uppercase and lowercase, okay, and will retain 0. That means the two strings have the same state. This will retain a positive value. Here is Perry is compared to apple, so the situation is reversed from the one in the top. So will retain positive value. So compared to, you can use it to sort the strings based on the lexicographics orders. Any questions so far? Okay, so this is an example where we have a string 4 and 5 and 6, and we ask if a string is compare to. So what will be printed? Take half a minute and let me know what will be printed, and make sure that you read the question carefully, that we have if else, and in the second part also if else, which that means only 2 messages or 1 message, or I don't know what will be printed. You can give me that after half a minute. Remember, we are comparing based on the ASCII code. And we saw in the previous example, book and bookstore, they share the same thing at the beginning. But because it's bookstore, it's have more character than book, it will be. Now, it's happen if they have book 1, book 2. So they have the same beginning, but 1 and 2. Then we look at the ASCII code of 1 and 2. Which one is the biggest? We will dominate and be a greater string. Okay, any suggestions? So string 4 is less than string 5, and string 5 and string 6 have the same orders. Okay. Searching inside the string is another way of search inside the string. Now we have the another view of the string as a character array. So I can look inside this character array for something of interest. So I can use index of h small. It will retain 0 if I have a string of hello.word. So I have a hello.word, and I say, give me the index of the first occurrence of h small. It will retain 0. Give me the index of, you see the second example, O between double quotation. I give a string. So give me the index of a string of O. It will retain 4. And in the third, I give ELL, that's retain 1, the first index. And when I have X retain an index of a character that does not exist inside my string, I will have -1. I can also use index and give a starting point. I need to look for O inside my string starting from index number 5. So if I do this, I will retain 8. So after index number 5, O is seen at index number 5, 8. Remember, the index starts from 0 up to the length -1. Other methods of the string is last index of the last seen characters. Last index of a string you can retain, give a string and last. Ignore equals ignore cases. You want to check the string for equality, but you don't care about uppercase and lowercase. Okay, so a string start with, if the string starts with a certain string, okay, end with, if the string is end with some other string, okay, replace, you take the character and another character and try to replace character 1 by character 2. And trim, that's remove the white space beginning and the ending of the string to upper or to lower. So you take the string and retain. And as you can see, in the last 3 or 4 methods, the retain data type is a string. We're not changing the state of the string. So either we are replacing the characters, we are creating a new string and retain it back. And this will see here in this slide, we can iterate through the string from 0 up to the length. Now, in this slide, there is a big difference between thinking about arrays.length and string.length. What's the difference? Anyone can suggest? What is the difference if I define a one-dimensional array and I ask array.length, and I define a string and ask for the length of the string? Exactly. So whenever we are working with a string, the dot length is a method. So we have to give the input argument, and in this case, there's no input argument. So just as parentheses and empty parentheses. In the array is an attribute. It's defined once I define the array. I need an array of 5 elements. So I set the value of the length to 5. So I don't need a square, the parentheses. I only need arrays.length without the parentheses. I can ask to retain substring. I have the original string. I would like to retain a substring between index I and index k. It will go, and this is very important for the substring to notice here, it will go from I up to k minus 1. So k is excluded, not included. So if you want from 2 to 7, it will take 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7 is not included. You can ask for substring and you give one argument. I want substring from index I up to the end. It will do that for you. So what do you think that, just to test our knowledge, what do you think this televisions dot substring from 2 to 5? Remember, this index starts from 0. So what will be retained for the first statement and for the second and the third? What about the first one? LEV. The second one is immutable. And the last one will be an empty because index 9 is out of the scope. So it will not raise an exception for you. It will retain an empty string. So this is to test our knowledge. We define two strings S1 and S2, and we ask to print the length and index of E. And then we ask for a substring between 7 and 10, and we ask the substring between 2 and 8, and then we ask S3.lowers. So as you can see on the first one, the length is 15, the second index of E, the last time is seeing E, it's the first time is at index 9. Then if you asking for substring from 7 to 10, it's 7, 8, 9, 3, not 4. So 10 is excluded. So we have IVE, and if we ask to take a substring from 2 to 8, that means 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8 is not included, and that will retain MPUTER. Okay, this is an exercise for you at home. You have a string, and we will like to extract the word Java from that string. How would you extract the first word of the string? Use all the previous methods, is start with, end with, use characters, is a digit, is a characters, use all the tools that you can to do this. Just to emphasize about modifying the state of the string, what do you think the output of this? We have a string S1 is York University, and we try to S dot uppercase, and then we print the string again. We emphasize here that none of the string method change the state of the string, so that will print the same value, because S dot upper will create a new string and return it back to you. You didn't catch it, that is not the Java problem. So the string, the original string S stay the same. Now, what about this one? I try to define a string S1, York University, then I say S dot uppercase on the right side and reassign it to the string. It's not changing the state of the string. It's actually destroying the original one and creating a new one where all the letter is uppercase and assign it to S. So now the old location of the memory where the York University is written is forgetting. We'll go to the garbage collectors. The new location is defined and stored in S, so we can access it to this. So this is a way where we have to change the reference, not modifying the content of the string. Okay, this is an example. We have a string, we receive a method. It's already defined, it's a mystery method, I don't know what it's doing. And it's called, I give you a string, I am EECS1022 students, and then I print what is retained. What do you think this will be retained? Take half a minute and think about this. What will be retained? So the while loop is checking if the position not equal to -1. Why? And if the position is equal to -1, we will exit. Otherwise, we'll stay. Remember that index of will return -1 if you're looking for something is not exist inside the string. So this will return IAE1S. Think about it at home and see how it's work. Okay, this is another example where we can, it's from the textbook, we can try to look inside the string and find E. And this should motivate us for the regular expression, because in this example, I visited every element of the string to determine if it's E, and then I increment the counter, which is a very painful process. Imagine you are processing an HTML pages. You are a programmer, you receive many log files, many HTML pages, and you need to look for email address from these HTML pages. Or you look for a social insurance numbers, or you look for a username, logins, whatever, date of birth inside. It will be a painful process visiting them character by characters. So this is an example where we count the occurrence of E. This is another implementation. It's consider more efficient implementation for the same thing and print the number of occurrence of E. The last thing I think we're going to discuss is char versus int and char versus string. So if I define a capital is equivalent to 65, a small is equivalent to 97, and p capital is equivalent to 66, and space equivalent to 32. So each character has equivalent integer or an ASCII code. Now, if I ask a small plus 10, it will be 107. I don't know 107 what. If I cast it to character and print it, I know what this ASCII code means. Okay, if I have a capital plus a capital, it will retain 130. What is a 130? Is an integer value. It means integer 130. If I want to see what is correspond character for it, I have to cast it for a characters. So as we see here, a small plus 2, then cast it as a character will retain c small. The string versus char, if you define it small between double quotation, this is a string, between a single quotation, this is a character. And you can ask character.upper and s.length, and you can ask character at index 0, because this is a string object now. You can handle it as a string object. But you cannot define char c is equal to h between single quote, and then you say c dot upper case. This is error. You cannot treat a char object as a string. You have to define a string. To be able to convert the character to uppercase, you have to use the character class. So what is s plus 1? What is c plus 1? S plus 1 is the concatenations, and c plus 1 is arithmetics. And what is s plus s? Is a concatenation, c plus c is arithmetic. So these are the examples. Another way of printing the string is formatting the string, and you have already seen this, is to try to format the string based on the placeholders inside the string format. So this is an example where you're using string.format, and you have x is, and you put a %d. So this will take an integer and insert it inside the string using a placeholder. So you can define a placeholder where you can update the content of that. So you can think about this is I'm defining a string, and then using a string format, I reserve some space inside this array. I will update it at the end of the runtime. So at the runtime, I will change %d with whatever I have as a value x. And also I will update %d for y and update the content. So at the runtime, I replace the placeholders and update it with the value. So whatever I have value on x and y, I will be insert them on the string. Now, sometimes you need to have not only one positions, or as long as the length of the integers, you need to have some prefix width. So you can have %w with d and minus w and w with f also. That's give you the alignment. So if you have wd, that's mean aligned to the right, and minus w aligned to the left, and you specify the width. So in this for loops, I will print I times j 4 spaces and align to the right. So this will look like. And if you see this one, this is aligned to the left. You see the difference here? There's 4 spaces and 1 is the end of it. And here is 4 spaces and 1 at the beginning of it. You can ask for the float, the number of integer and decimal points. Here is 2 decimal points. So if you didn't specify the width correctly, it will be end up messy like this. That it's hard to read for the user. You can specify the suitable width, and it will be look more nicer in this one. So this is another way of doing a string format where you define a placeholder and you replace the placeholder at the runtime. So here we demonstrate some about 2 string concatenations and also replace and substring. So if you execute this one, I encourage all of you to look at it. So original string, and if we ask about the length and the phrase, we can have the length of the string, and then we can see how we change the use the replace, use toString, and also substring. Okay, these are example how we can treat a string as a parameters. So we have defined a new string and we ask a method, b method, and then we print a string 1, string 2, and string 3. What do you think the output of this? Given that the a method is implemented and is here on the slide, and a p method is implemented on the front of you. So what do you think the output after we call the method? So we send the string to the method. So can we change the state of the string? And once we see in the a method, we have str equal new. Remember, you receive a string called str. So it's already defined for me. I don't need to redefine it again. I say str equal new string and change a method, the original one, and then I return it back. Remember, the string is an object. It's not a primitive data type. Keep that in your mind. Okay, and also in the p method, I say a string result. It's a new one. Assign it to str and retain the result. What do you think the output? So in the first method, I'm going to change the string, actually, because it's an object. I send the reference to the method, a method. And it happened that a method play with the reference, change it. It's a create a new string and assign the reference to this new string and return it back to me. So when I print str1, it will be the content of the string. Now, you can ask, I didn't put it here, you can ask a print statement for str again after all this and see this, what happened, okay? What do you think now, given the implementation, this implementation on the previous slide, what do you think the output here? Is str is alias to str2. So here, str2 will be an alias because we retain the same reference. Java will understand, even after 1 million code, that str1 and the result are the same thing. So we retain the alias. str is the alias to str2. So p method didn't change anything. P method retained another reference to the same string. Okay, good. We are here finally. All this string characters review. The only new topic for today is two-dimensional array and what we're gonna discuss here. So far, you saw that you can treat a string as an array. You can search inside it. You can look for it. And you saw the example where we are looking for E character and you need to count it in appearance of some string. And imagine you want to count inside a log file how many error or warning, and you send it to the developer. There is a warning message when you are using the app. So all this log file. Imagine you are working on the Facebook. People are using the Facebook and there is an error message and you want to grab whenever you have an error message and send it to the developer to see what is it. So you need to look through very huge amount, big data, and you need to extract some informations. So as a motivations, imagine you want to count a number of white space. You need to remove them, or to access them, you need to see where is the white space. So that will be a huge task. Identify a blank lines, and sometimes you need to remove the blank line, this extra line. If you go to the Android Studio, for example, and you highlight your code and ask to reformat, the Android Studio will reformat the code for you. Okay, and imagine you are reading the HTML files and you're looking for a contacts information. You need to call people, you need to extract some information. I would want to so imagine yourself as a hacker, but most of the time the hacker is looking for the log files using the regular expression, trying to seek information about username and password so they can extract your username and password. Okay, even we have the encryption on the HTTPS protocol. We will encrypt our information, and that's part of the apps where you're going to encrypt some information and store it. So they also look at your inside big data, look at your social insurance number, some information, your address. They want to see whenever we come across HTML where the address is stored, they want to extract it out. Sometimes you do it for a good things. For example, you want to parse all the university HTML pages and extract the location of this university. Okay? So sometimes we do things for good, sometimes we do things for bad. So, but we always look to do good things. As I mentioned, imagine you are looking for a currency, for a date, and there's some people, they create their own website based on looking at the feeds from different websites, and they create their own live demo for the currency exchanging, stock markets. So they extract this information on the spot. And there's a huge application for regular expression on the computational biology. Also, Unix grabs utility use the regular expressions where you want to search for something inside your file system. Writing the code to examine character one by one is a painful process and it's time consuming. You might not end up. Okay? Always, so from now on, we're going to solve this problem. This is our problem. Given a text T capital and pattern P capitals, check whether P capital occurs on T capitals. So given a text T capital as just a string here on the slide, A, P, C, C, and look at the pattern PC. If BC is there or not, that's one of the things. True or false? I don't want you to tell me where is it. Did you see it? Yes or no? The second question is, did you see it? Yes. Where is it? Extract it, replace it, change it, modify it. And that's where spelling check is coming handy on a Microsoft Word. Okay? They look at some common spelling mistakes and they change it. They give you suggestions sometimes. If you accept it, it will be changed. So this is our problem from now on. Sometimes we don't need an approximation. We don't need the exact, PC, PPC. We need a pattern that starts with P, end with C, but there is one character between. And can be anything, but should not be a number. So as like an approximation, we come across on approximations. So sometimes we look for multiple patterns at the same time. So let us see. Now, the key in this pattern matchings is a regular expression. You can find it on java.util.regex. Regex is an API. You can read more about it online. There is a huge tutorial, endless and limitless tutorials. People are discussing regular expression as a topic by itself. Classes, lectures, courses start as a one semester for regular expression only. We're not going to go deep on regular expression. We're going to equip you with the initial informations that can help you in your journey if you would like to go there. So you will have all the tools to see the regular expression, understand what is the people looking for. You will be able to create your own regular expression looking for a certain information. The key issue on the regular expression, two objects that you need to master. Pattern, very simple. You don't need to worry about how we combine the expression. You give the expression, you define object, pattern P equal pattern.compile, and you give between the string object your pattern, your regular expression. In this case, I'm looking for A star P. What is A star P means? I'm going to come to that in the next slides. So this object pattern, we're going to keep it in our mind and we're going to use it from now on. Another object is a matchers, the one who's going to really do the work, the hard worker, the agent, who's going to take this regular expression and try to match it in your string. And we'll let you know if he find it or not, and if he find it, where he find it, and he will do the hard work, the matches. But the matcher cannot do anything without the pattern objects. So you need the pattern object, as you can see in the matchers. You define matcher M equal P is the pattern dot matches, and you give the string that you are looking for. P. This is a string. It can be any object, it can be a file, it can be whatever you like. You give it to the matchers and you say, okay, so you can see this couple relations. Pattern by itself is nothing. I define what I'm looking for. Okay, so far, did you find it? Oh, I have to do the matches. Oh, the matches without patterns, what I'm looking for. So you can think as two persons are working together. One to create the regular expression, the other one to do the search. Okay? So regular expression either match the text or part of the text, or it's failed to match. Keep that in mind. So either we fail to match anything or part of it. So if the regular expression match part of the text, then you can easily find out that part. With this information, you can extract part, you can replace, you can substitute. If I know that I'm looking for a phone number inside an HTML page, and I know how the phone number is constructed, I can extract it, I can replace it, okay? This is a very simple examples. This is a regular expression, is written like this. What is the syntax of a regular expression? We're gonna come to it. We're gonna come to the syntax of the regular expression. But now take this, an example, and let us analyze it. It's a very simple example. We have a string, define the regular expression. Regular expression defined as a string object. So we have double quotations. Square brackets. Inside the square brackets, we have a minus z. This minus is not arithmetic minus. It's actually saying from a small to z small. So any characters, I'm looking for a single characters, either lowercase a or b. A plus sign means one or more, greater than or equal 1. So give me a single character. If you have seeing a single character is lowercase. So if I have a text, all of it is uppercase, I will retain failure. There's no matching. So this is a single, matching a single characters within the range a small to z small, one or more. So if you have one or more character of such kind of things. So this is an example. You look at the regular expression, I define the pattern, you see. Most of the time, you're going to see the same thing. Thing is repeated. Pattern, what is the pattern? Pattern is a string, pattern is equal. The pattern you're looking for, we define it as a string object. What is the text? This is the text that I'm looking for. First thing, you need to combine the pattern. What is the combined? I'm not going to dig deep on the combined. It will create a state models, state diagrams. It's all complicated. People take courses on that. Okay, so pattern P equal pattern.combine. You give the string object. The pattern is combined. Good. Then you need to define the matchers. Matcher m dot matchers, and you give the string, the text that you are looking for. You see, these steps are essentials. Define the pattern as a string object, combine the pattern, you have your string that you are looking for, then you give it to the matcher object. So I need the pattern and matches. I cannot look for something with a pattern only. I cannot look for anything with a matcher only. I need the pattern to be compiled, and I need the matchers to look for it. And look here, integer count is equal to 1, and then I use m.find. M is a matchers. Matcher will say while loop. While I'm finding the match, print it out to the user, and you can see I use m.start, m.end. We're going to come close to analyze this example in details and know more information about the matcher next slide. And then I count. So the first character I'm going to see is what? N capital. N capital is not lowercase, so I'm not going to match it. Then I have 0, I have OW. OW is what? O by itself is a small characters. Then I say one or more. Oh, I have to look one more. So I will see W, I will report it. Okay? Then I will have cross what? white space. White space is not match, so I'm not going to report it as a match. Then I have IS as a match. Then I have THE as a match. Then I have time as a match. You can see here we are finding 3 patterns that match our regular expression.
Can you add and statements inside the parameters for pattern?
What?
So you did A through Z, right? Let's say I also want to go through capital A to Z.
We are discussing this example. If you have another example, you try it by yourself at home and you give me your results, okay? So we're not changing the example. This is a very starting point. It's not good to confuse the students. So now we are looking for any characters that is a small characters, 1 or more. And you can see by running this example, we find 4 patterns, 4 matchings. So m.find will retain the match. Whenever we find the match, we're going to return it. Okay? So, any questions before this example is moved? Changing the example, we tried at home, we do the pattern, but still we didn't take the pattern syntax yet. So, this is the first examples. What is the matches? What the method that inside the matches? We're going to come to that. So, next lectures, we're going to start by discussing this example again, and we end up. But before you come to the next lectures, I will post some lecture notes, and I will recommend all of you to go through strings, characters, understand them fully, because if you, I don't say I'll take too much time than I expected, but to build a concrete background and a solid ground we stand before going regular expression. Regular expression is a fun, but if you miss it, you will find it hard to digest. Okay, we're going to discuss next lecture the regular expressions, syntax, the matches, and how we can call it.